Hey class, my name is Alicia. So the carbon footprint source I chose was waste, and this is going to include trash waste, food waste, basically anything that kind of ends up at the landfills. So what does carbon footprint mean? Carbon footprint refers to the amount of carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases that are emitted due to the burning or consumption of fossil fuels, and these gases are then trapped in our atmosphere, ultimately raising the temperature of our planet and hurting our environment. The 5 general sources of carbon footprint come from energy, agriculture, land use change, industrial processes, and wastes. As you can see, the percentages that take up from these sources, waste is definitely the smallest one, but it still adds to the contributing factor of the pollution of the greenhouse gases. So where does this carbon come from? The carbon dioxide that's released usually comes from landfills. So these landfills make these huge piles of junk and trash, and they burn them and incinerate them, which then gives off gases such as carbon dioxide and methane, which are bad for our ozone layer and our atmosphere. Here's a chart that explains some of the ways to recycle and reduce, and it shows US compared to countries like Germany, Netherlands, Austria, Belgium, and Sweden in the European Union. As you can see, we are not one of the leading countries in recycling. This light color here shows the percentage of our waste that's landfilled. So we really don't want a high number here. You see these countries here that have virtually no landfills, which is very good for our environment and helps with pollution. So how does carbon dioxide affect our climate? You may not think it really does anything, but it ultimately affects everybody. So it raises the temperature of our environment and our atmosphere, which starts melting, polar ice caps, and starts raising the temperature of water, which can ultimately affect the aquatic life of ecosystems that live there and whatever else. So the effects that carbon dioxide has on our ecosystem, we have plants and trees that help regulate our natural carbon dioxide emissions and stuff, but once you contribute the industries and all the major factors that produce these pollutants, so these rising levels of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in our atmosphere ultimately affect our ecosystem, and we can definitely see those changes because there's certain types of species of fish that are becoming extinct and stuff from these pollutants in our air. So why should we care about these effects, and how does this affect our daily lives? Some people may really not think that global warming affects them personally, but it does, and you don't even realize it. Our ozone layer is becoming weakened and weakened through these pollutants in our atmosphere, which ultimately lets more UV radiation in, which can result in higher risks of skin cancer and disease. So the plan of action to reduce carbon footprint, there's a lot of things that people can do to help reduce carbon emissions in our atmosphere. Some of these things include just carpooling or reducing the miles that you drive on your car, eco-saving cars or Priuses that are, you can have like battery powered or something that reduces the carbon dioxide emissions. On a national scale, there's a lot that we can really do, but it also takes our country to come together as a whole and make this decision together, because one or two people or a few people doing it is not really going to make a big difference as much as if our whole country decided to get one plan of action to reduce the carbon emissions in our atmosphere. There's ways like solar panels and wind turbines that can really help reduce carbon dioxide emissions through electricity. Just these 1 or 2 factors can help reduce our emissions by half. So here you can see some of the ways that wind turbines and solar panels really do reduce our carbon dioxide emissions. if one house puts up their solar panels to provide for them, it takes about 6,000 pounds every year away from the carbon dioxide emitted. If a small neighborhood of 25 houses did this, it would save over 150,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions annually. The wind turbine ratio is about a 1-to-1, so for every 1 watt of energy used, it saves about 1 pound of carbon dioxide emissions. So I used the online calculator to determine my initial carbon footprint, and using their input source, I determined I use about 56,000 pounds annually in my household between 3 people, which is a crazy number to me. I never realized how greatly we contribute to that. So since the source I picked was waste, I chose to use methods of reducing and recycling towards waste, such as recycling materials properly and getting a separate trash bin for my recycling materials than my trash can, so it makes it a little bit easier and it's not so much as I just want to throw it away. I can, easily recycle and easily throw my trash away. I also contributed to getting a compost bin. I have a small garden in our backyard, but now I have the compost bin for food waste, which helps with my soil and my fertilizer and helps eliminate wastes. And here are my works cited pages. Thank you guys for listening and enjoy your class.